Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for coming to our webinar today. Today, we are going to focus on some best practices and also some new features. And let's go ahead and jump right in. So a couple of things, and this is all in response to some feedback that we've gotten from you folks. We're going to go over best practices, improved readability scores, some new features, and also we're definitely going to talk about the new locations page today, which we've been kind of mentioning the last couple of months, and we finally have something to show today, which I'm very excited about. And also, I do want to have time at the end for any questions. And also, if you do have questions in the meantime throughout the presentation, definitely raise your hand, and I'll be checking the chat. Also, Kieran, if you can respond to folks in the chat as questions come up, that would be fantastic. And yes, I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end.
Sure, Peter.
Great. Thanks, Kieran. Okay, so there is a long list of best practices that we could go over today. I'm just going to highlight a couple. Again, this is a great part of the presentation to jump in if you do have any questions about anything specific. I'm going to start with some kind of like very basic, easy things, and then maybe get into a couple of more things we don't talk about too often. But jumping over here to the model website, El Condado. The first thing I wanted to mention is that we do see more and more courts that are adding more items to their top level navigation. I do want to just highlight that when we built these sites, we did design it in terms of the widths, so that you really do only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 6. We've even added this 7th one over here. There are a couple of sites that are adding a 7th and 8th level to their top navigation, and it's just I just want to emphasize that we didn't actually build it to look good beyond 6. So if you possibly can, do try to limit the top level navigation just to 6 items. And I know a lot of courts get frustrated because they have a hard time getting people to click on their careers page, for example, so they might highlight it over here. If you do have trouble with people clicking to your careers page, I would recommend reaching out to us, and we do have some recommendations for what to do about that, in lieu of adding another top level navigation item right here. So that is one thing that I wanted to talk about. Now I want to jump into a specific page and go through a couple of things. So I have a test page right here. And I want to use this as an example to talk about H tags. Again, this is something that we've mentioned quite a bit, but it is a pretty important best practice to keep all of your H tags in order. I do still see quite a number of pages, maybe not quite a number, but occasionally I do see pages where the first thing you see on the site is an H3. So you're jumping from the title of the page, which is the H1, to the H3. And that's something we want to avoid for the sake of screen readers. It will ding your reader or your accessibility score if you're jumping around between the H tags. So even though it might stylistically look nice to have to jump straight to your H3 tags, try to avoid that. And so here is going to be the best practice for your H tags. I won't dwell on this, I promise, but I do want to mention this. First thing you should see is the title right here. This is your H1. Or actually, in the hero component, I should say. This is the H1. This right here is going to be like the breadcrumb. So in the hero, this is the H1. In the body section, this heading is going to be the H2. If you go into the body section, you can then have more H2 tags quite often. Nested under H2 is going to be H3. Beyond that is H4. And then you can jump back to an H2. And to make your H tags, you just use a style drop down like this. I never really see anything below an H4, but there is technically an H5 if your page does go there. So this is how your H tags will look if you have a bunch of H tags on a page. H1, H2, 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 H3 under H2, H4 under H3. So you're just not skipping any levels there. And again, that is important for screen readers. Okay, so I want to talk next about media. So I'm going to jump into the content and then media. We have not had too many questions recently about media, just because I think trial courts don't have that many media items on their websites, which does make this pretty easy. But I do want to note that if you're talking about images, you can come back into the media library to manage your images, and you can always update the name. You can update the alt text, which is a good thing to do. We also, and this is new, several months ago, we made it so that you can adjust the focal point of an image. So if you have an image that needs to be centered at a particular place that's not the natural center of the image, you can adjust that right here. And then wherever the image appears, it will be recentered in that way. One thing to note is that you might have to save this a second time to get it to stick. But you can also click the preview button, and then that is going to show the preview of how the image is going to look with the focal point. Okay, and then you can also, of course, overwrite files, and this is going to be the best place, whether you're talking about PDFs or images. Coming back into the media library, clicking on the item, and then overwriting right here by making sure that this toggle is engaged. And this is by default set to overwrite the file. So this is going to be the best place to overwrite a file. And then there are a couple of taxonomy terms that you can use. And I also want to mention this, that we have these default taxonomy terms set. We can add new taxonomy terms for you, or if you're a manager on your site, you should be able to add new taxonomy terms by going into structure, taxonomy, and then from there, you can add taxonomy terms to different areas of the site, whether you're talking about news or media, anything that says like category. You can usually adjust these on your own, or if you need help from us in adjusting these.
I kind of want to go to their show though.
Let us know. I think somebody might not be on mute, by the way, just FYI. So that's kind of a good thing to know. I'm going to click save here and jump back to my test page. Okay, here's my test page again. In terms of adding and manipulating media on a specific page, whenever you're in any sort of a body text field, you can always add an image just by either clicking on it. If it's already been uploaded to the media library, it's going to appear right here. Or if you want to add a new image, just click choose file, and it will force you to select a taxonomy term. And then I'm going to go ahead and click insert. There was a time this year when this edit media button was not working correctly. So we have implemented a fix for that. So this edit media button is now working again. If you did encounter any issues with it, it wasn't terribly dramatic, but it was a little quirky for a while. So right now, if you click on edit media, this is the same for whether it's a video or an image. You have a couple of different options right here. So you can move the image to the right, to the left, none, which is going to be, I think, probably also to the left, and then center. And you can also change the container size. And you can also update the alternate text of the image right here. So nothing too dramatic. We have kept this pretty bare bones with the images because kind of, again, courts just don't have that many images, but it seems pretty functional. Again, we do take feedback on this sort of thing. So if there is something that you would like to do for an image, there is a possibility that we can enable it. I think that we've talked about having a cropping tool. Some of our other websites have a cropping tool, if that would be useful to you. we'll take a note of that. So let us know, or anything else that you'd like to do for images, but we have kept it pretty bare bones for the most part. I know that I'm jumping around a little bit. This is going to be the nature of this presentation. But next, I want to jump to the "Was this helpful?" feature. So if you are on any given page of a site, you might notice you have this "Was this helpful?" component. I want to talk about two things today. The first is viewing feedback, and the second is how to remove it. Our recommendation, just in terms of best practices, was to actually remove this after a year since your site went live, unless you're still getting value from it. So if you still are feeling like you're getting valuable feedback from the public from this, definitely feel free to keep this on. If not, it's one click of the button for us on our end to remove this from your site. We have gotten more recommendations or requests rather for websites to have this removed. And the main reason why you might want to have this removed is that if you ever look at your site on mobile view, you will notice that this "Was this helpful?" takes up quite a bit of real estate on the page. So just keep that in mind, that if you're not actively looking at the feedback and if it's not useful, definitely consider reaching out to us to have this removed from your site, because again, the intention was to make sure that the public had a way to let you know if the new site is working after launch. For most everyone on this call, your site has been live for a while, so we definitely can remove this for you. But if you would like to check the feedback from the public, I know it is something that is not always prioritized, and so sometimes it just gets neglected. But in order to check the feedback from the public, quick reminder on this: you go to Structure, Web Forms, because that is technically a web form. You find "Was this helpful?" right here. You click Open. To see the results, you click Results. This is going to be the feedback. And this is just our model site, so we don't really have any real feedback here, but you will see it a lot here, and you probably will have quite a bit of it. In order to download the feedback you've received, just click Download, and you have some options for how you want that to be downloaded. And then you can review it. You can also just review it, obviously. Here, you do have to scroll a little bit. The comments from the public are going to be in this column. We don't have any comments to show here, but they're going to be here, so you might have to scroll over to see those. But yes, just to reiterate it one more time, if you're not checking this regularly, or if you are and the feedback is not useful or valuable, it's probably time to reach out to us and let us know if you want to remove that from your site. We just don't want to do it across the board, because some sites might still be getting a lot of value from this. So we don't want to just like remove it without people reaching out to us. Okay. Let me pause and see if there are any questions or feedback so far before I move on to the next section. Okay, so far so good. We're going to move on to talking about a couple of new features. I'm going to start talking about the bulk delete. This was a request that we got from a number of courts, and we have not displayed it to the wider group yet, but this is now available. And I'm not sure how regularly you will use this. I have actually used it a number of times already, and it is quite helpful. So if you come back here into the content section, and if you want to delete multiple pages, maybe a full section of your site is no longer in use, or just for whatever reason, or maybe a better example is you find that there are a lot of pages that are maybe they were never published, maybe they were scraped over from your site years ago and they've just been sitting there, and it might be a pain to delete them all. You can now select them like this and then click Apply to Selected Items, Delete Content, and then they will be deleted just like that, quite conveniently. Also, another use for this, and probably actually will happen more often for you, is you can bulk delete media now as well. It's on the left side for some reason, but you're going to come over here. Same thing, just select and then apply this to delete them all at once. Okay, I'm going to jump back to my test page. This next item is something that we have talked about in the past, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of it. And that is adding images to cards. I have actually not seen this too often. I think I've seen it on a number of courts as I've been just going through the sites. Have been adding this recently, but I still don't see it too often. So you can now, to basically any card that you have on your website, you can now add an image to it if you would like. So let me demonstrate how to do that. If you go into components, click add card. I'll make this 2 cards. Let's call this card 1 with some text. Everyone is familiar with the button where you add a URL and you add a link. In addition to this, there is now the media dropdown. Again, this isn't particularly new. This is about a year ago we added this, but just to reiterate how to do this, select an image, and then there you go. So super, super easy. Let's call this card 2 with some text. And then same thing, I will add an image. And here are now my, guess this is just my image that I just added here. Here are my 2 cards. So they are going to be styled like this. One thing about the images with cards is we only have this one version of it. So we do have those 3 other versions of cards, right? Or there's 2 other versions. We have the card that does not have a border, and then we have the card that is kind of like the hover state. If you do add an image, it's going to override those 2 other states, and it's just going to be this gray border like this. But you can still, just as always, you can manipulate these in terms of the columns. And depending on the image that you're using, it should look pretty good no matter how many columns that you have. So let me see if I can demo this by saying 3 columns. So here we go. It's going to change the image size, but it shouldn't distort it too badly. Okay. So that is cards with images. The next thing I want to go over, sticking with images, let's go back into the media library. Or actually, no, let's go to the home page. So we now have the ability to add an overlay image attribution just specifically to the hero image on the home page. But this is going to be available to all images across the site very soon. So I want to go ahead and show how you do this with the hero image, because you will be able to do this again for all images across the site, probably sometime in January. I think we're going to roll this out. But here's kind of a sneak peek at this. And you can, again, right now, you can do this with your hero image on the home page, where you have your image, and right below it, you can add an image title, or you can add a photo attribution. It's going to be the same thing in either case. So I'm just going to say photo by JCC right here as the text. When I click save, you now have this right here. Prior to enabling this, it was a little bit of a pain to get photo attributions added to hero images when they were required. So now this makes it super easy. And there's a nice overlay here. So no matter what text you're using, no matter how what your image looks like, whether it's light or dark, this will show up. So if you do need to credit a photographer, you can do that very easily right here. And it's not too abrasive. So how this is going to look, or work for any image on the site, again, very soon, is you will go back into the media library and you will click edit on an image. There already is this media caption area right here, but as people have actually noticed and mentioned to me before, this actually doesn't really do anything. So we're going to make it so that when you do add an image caption in this field that already exists, it will be styled just like that hero homepage image where there's that overlay, and then it's going to have the text overlaid over the overlay. So if you have the use case actually that we're building this for is judges, where you have an image of your judge at your court, and maybe they want to have their name attached to that image, this is what you will use to add that caption to the image. Now, other items that I wanted to talk about today are items that we have listed on the Drupal training guides. So I just want to read it to everyone, as we always do on these calls, that on our Elkin Dotto website under Drupal training guides, we do display new features right here. So I'm not going to walk through all of these today, but we have talked about before the tooltip, and here's that image focal point that I just went over. There's also a read more feature. So do check back here if you're familiar or if you're curious about any other items that we might be rolling out in the future. And I do want to highlight that there are a couple of other items that are coming soon. So we have the image captions that I mentioned. We also are, this was a request that came in from Alameda, but we're going to be enabling sitemaps to all the websites. Right now, Orange County and I think San Mateo have this enabled, where they do have a sitemap. Let me see if I can display this very quickly. I didn't have it pulled up, but I think it's here. Okay, so you're right. So here is San Mateo's sitemap. There's actually a little bit of work on our end that that's required for us to make this available on your website. Rather than rolling it out one by one, we're just going to go ahead and make this so that this is something that you can add to your website. This is probably, again, a January, maybe February thing, but this is going to be coming pretty soon, where you will be able to add this sitemap pretty easily to your website. And then also, we are going to have a couple of stylistic updates to the web forms. That we've been talking about these for a little while, and we have rolled out a couple of small updates, but a couple more are coming in the new year. So that's something also to look forward to. One thing that I just realized that I did skip over is I wanted to talk a little bit today about readability scores on the websites. We've had a couple of questions about this, and I am currently looking into the Drupal readability score feature. Drupal does have a built-in tool that we have not enabled, but again, we're looking into it, that will give you a readability score on your website. And I do know that there are also a lot of third-party tools that are available. I myself use third-party tools for this. There are some Google Chrome extensions that you can look into. And also my favorite actually is an old school product called HemingwayApp.com. And I do want to demo how this works, because particularly if you're responsible for any content on your website, I think that it's actually worthwhile to use a tool like this, and there are other AI tools that do the same thing. This is very visual, so I like it. But let me demonstrate how this works very quickly. Maybe I can throw this in the chat. But if you go to any page on your site, let's just pick one. And I'm going to take a couple paragraphs of text here. If you copy and paste text into this, or again, other tools that are out there, it highlights problematic text. Anything in red is hard to read, and also is going to give you the readability score. So here we have grade 11. The sweet spot is way closer to grade 8. This says aim for 9. If you can aim for 8 on a public website, like the ones that we manage, that would be absolutely ideal. So if you do have some free time, or if your job is to look after the content on your website, I do recommend taking a look, maybe making a project around getting that readability score down to around age 8. That is our actual recommendation at the JCC, I believe. It's either 8 or 9, but if you can shoot for 8, that would be ideal. Let me know if you have any questions about any other tools. I will let the group know if we do ever enable the Drupal module that gives the readability score for you. I haven't seen it in action, so I don't know exactly how valuable it is, but that is something that we're going to be looking into in the new year. Okay, let me pause again and see if there are any questions from the group at this point.
Peter, this is Jenny. I just wanted to interject. For the self-help site that we created and that we've worked with our web content attorneys, we actually aim for even a lower grade, 5th or 6th, I believe, just so that it's more universally understandable. So I'll leave it there just for everyone to kind of see where we are actually aiming for our sites. Terms of
thanks, Jenny. Yeah, good point. I mean, if you can hit grade 6, that would be absolutely ideal. I'm not sure if I've ever seen that, but yes. Did someone have a comment? Oh, maybe just someone needs to be muted. Okay. So next, I'm going to jump to the locations page update. Let me go ahead and make this full screen so that everyone can see it.
Actually, Peter, there were a couple of questions in the chat. I know I interrupted you, so you were going to get into the questions, but there were a couple of questions in the chat.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, let me take a look. We have one question that I'm seeing here. Entire card clickable. Will this be available soon? This is a conversation that we've had for a lot of our web properties is, are we going to make, like, should the card be fully clickable or not fully clickable? And the answer is that we've kind of done as much as we can, the best of both worlds, in that some cards are fully clickable and some aren't. So if you use the hover state card, there are those 3 variants of the card. If you use the hover state, it is fully clickable. The other 2 are not. And maybe there still is a discussion for us to have about whether or not to make the image card fully clickable. I think that there definitely is a good conversation to have around there. We haven't actually talked too much about that. So if someone thinks that maybe it is a good idea to make those image cards fully clickable, let us know. Would be happy to have that conversation, or to put it on a to-do list. We have a question. Can the Was This Helpful be displayed on only a select assortment of pages? I believe the answer to that is yes. Is Stephen on the call? Stephen would know. If not, Wyatt, I can get back to you on that. That's a very good question. Let me take a note to get back to you on that. And okay, we also have that question, how to add captions to images. I think I did cover that. Okay. Good questions, everyone. All right, jumping ahead to the locations page updates, which again, we've been talking about for quite some time. This new tool is done. We just need to review the code, and we are going to be rolling it out in January, assuming that the code passes with all of our senior developers. I think everyone on this call is familiar with the general basic idea, but just to reiterate, right now on your websites, when you click locations on your homepage, you're taken to a page, and unless that, I want to hesitate here because there are some sites that we have redirected that page. And so we're talking, you've created subpages that might be different from this, but this is the standard version. Is when someone clicks on locations from your homepage, they're taken to one page that is a long scroll with all of your individual courthouses and all that information displayed right there. In the new world that we're going to be rolling out in the new year, when the user clicks on locations from the home page, what they're taken to first is this, a page that looks like this, where there is the hero area at the top that shows the county information, and then it shows a map. And below that, it displays all of the different courthouses with an image and then some text below it. And that text will include, it's cut off in my screenshot, unfortunately here, but it's going to include the text of the courthouse address and also any phone number information. And in addition to that, it will display whether or not the courthouse has a self-help center, and that will be highlighted in yellow. So it's all the information is going to be right there. And then also in addition to that, there is a filter on the left side where users can filter for self-help locations, and then they can also filter by cases served and by city. And then when with those filters engaged, it will just show those specific cards. When a user clicks on that card into the specific courthouse, then they are taken into a view that looks like this. And what we're seeing here is a very similar view to what we have currently, although we have made a number of updates. And I can tell this screenshot actually was taken from a somewhat earlier version of the tool. There's a couple of little minor errors here. For example, was this helpful is jumping up in a strange place, but we have dialed this in so that it looks great. But what you're seeing here is effectively what you have now, but right now in the current world, all of your information, for the most part, is pretty unstructured, meaning that a lot of it is just body text where you're filling in information. In this new world, and I'm going to click into what the backend looks like here, everything is basically fill-in-the-blank experience. And that's going to make it so that this is fully structured data, meaning that we can take this data once you have it filled out on these pages, and we can repurpose it on other pages. So we can call it up on our Find Your Court website that's on the JCC's main page. You can also, not now, but in the future, you'll be able to call this information up on other pages. So the idea is that once you fill out, for example, your phone number for your self-help center, you just need to fill that out one place, which is here, and then it can be called up in other places. Because right now in the current world, there is the risk, and this definitely happens, where the Find My Court page that we have on the JCC's site will have one phone number for your self-help center. You guys might have updated that on your own, and then they get out of sync, right? So this is going to hopefully keep all the information fully in sync. That's the vision that we have here. I do want to mention that there is going to be a little bit of some lifting when we roll this out. So we're not going to roll this out all in one fell swoop. You're not going to wake up one day and this is just enabled on your site. What's going to happen is that when we roll this out, it will first be on your site but not enabled. And so if you click into your locations page, you're going to see a little toggle. And I forget the terminology we use, but it's going to default to showing your legacy content. You can toggle that to showing the new version. And we're going to work with courts individually to make sure that this all goes very seamlessly, so that when you will have plenty of time to update all this locations information before you hit that toggle to update to the new location. So it should be pretty seamless. We have a list of 5 courts that we're going to roll this out first, and then we're going to start working with a broader community. I'm not sure if we're going to have a webinar showing how to do this or if we're going to work with you one-on-one. I think that for the most part, it will be pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure that no one gets confused or worried that any information is going to go away overnight, because it should be pretty straightforward. Since that was a lot, I do want to pause again and see if there are any questions. Let me jump back to the chat. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. And the courts that will be the flagships for rolling this out, I believe it's everyone should know who you are. We have a list of you, but it's going to be some of the new courts that we're working with. So it's going to be Contra Costa, San Bernardino, I believe Solano is on the list, and a couple other courts that have launched recently. Those are going to be the courts that are going to hear from us first about the new locations page, and then we'll start knocking on your door to roll this out for everyone else in the community. We have a question that I want to make sure I get to. So let me go ahead and answer. Jules asks, where can I find Was This Helpful again? Which it is not a part of the site that anyone goes to regularly. So yes, it's something that's easy to forget. If you go into structure and then web forms, I guess the thing to remember is that Was This Helpful is technically a web form. So structures, web forms. If you have an editor permission on your website, you won't be able to see this. But if you are a manager on the site, you will be able to see this. So if you can't find this, it may be a permission issue. And then find the web form titled Was This Helpful and click Open. From here, I get confused about this. It's actually not submissions. You actually want to click on results. And then from here, you can find people's information. And it will look more useful on your website, just by the way, because there will be feedback. It's this column that's going to be the important one. Was this helpful? A lot of people just say no, by the way, which is not very helpful. But yeah, look at this column. Any additional information, or feedback, that's what people are going to be filling out. Does someone have a question, or maybe just someone's not muted? Okay. Let me stop one more time and see if there are any questions about the locations page. And who is excited about it? Because I am, because we've been working on this for like 2 years. So it's going to be very exciting to roll this out. All right. Okay. Let me then open it up to the group and see if there are any other questions that folks might have for me or for Jenny or Kieran or anyone on the JCC's team. Any questions?
Hey, Peter, it's Jenny. I just wanted to add a little bit about the locations. I know that you had already mentioned us being able to kind of take data and reuse it elsewhere or to call it elsewhere. But I think one of the other features is that each location, each courthouse location is going to have its own separate page as well. So I think that there are certain trial court sites that have just a really long listing of courthouses. And I think this is going to be just an added better user experience for people who are searching for a particular courthouse and to see what kind of cases are being served at that particular place. So we did take into consideration the usability factor when we were designing this locations update.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. And a lot of the tweaks are fairly subtle, but we did make it so that it's going to be ideal for users on mobile, and it will be just all around so much cleaner. It is going to be a very nice update to folks. Okay, I'm sensing that it is nearly a holiday weekend, and perhaps folks are eager to get out the door. I do want to say that I am still working with a couple of you here, including Wyatt, who I noticed had a question, and I believe Sam at Alameda. I will be getting back to you in the new year on a couple of items. So if you're waiting on some tickets that I've been mentioning, we will be getting to those soon. For anybody else, as always, feel free to reach out if you have any comments or questions or feedback. We do have a fairly long list of enhancements that we will be continuing to roll out in 2025 and beyond. So we hope that the websites never become stale. We hope that they're always growing and becoming better and more user-friendly. So we'll continue to be collecting feedback from you, because truly, it is the feedback from the community that helps us know what to focus on. So we do always appreciate your feedback. And with that, I think we might be able to go ahead and wrap up a little bit early. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for your time, and hope you have a really great holiday weekend coming up.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much.